Hey everyone, Ryan here at eTrailer. Today on our 2024 Ford Bronco, we're going to be showing you how to install the Roadmaster custom fit stoplight switch kit. Before we do that though, let's just take a minute. We'll talk about this and actually help you figure out what it's going to do or if you're going to need it. So a stoplight switch is a pretty simple component. More or less what it's going to do is tell either the indicator light for your supplemental braking system if you're setting up a flat tow like this to be pulled behind a motorhome, or it's going to tell your trailer brake controller that the brake pedal is being pushed down. And the reason that this is needed more or less for a flat tow setup, let's say, is that some of these braking systems, like the Stay and Play Duo, for example, the Roadmaster InvisiBrake, some of the others, have an indicator light or a monitor that lets you know when the brake pedal is being pushed down in the towed vehicle. And since you're not able to use or tie into the stock Ford one, that's where this is gonna come into play and give that indicator light its signal. And this is also going to work out for those of you wanting to do a trailer brake controller and your vehicle doesn't have that factory tow package that's active, right? And you kind of, instead of going to a dealer, getting all the modules in and everything, you can put some other parts on there to get the brake controller working. But kind of the same situation, a trailer brake controller requires a brake light signal, right? So it knows when you're pushing the brake pedal down to actually send power back to the trailer's brakes. And this is going to do that as well. Perfect example today, we have the Demco Stay and Play Duo supplemental braking system installed on our Bronco. It has a wireless coach link monitor. It'll work for regular indicator lights too, but whenever the brakes are applied in the Bronco, when you're flat towing, that indicator light will illuminate, and that's because the stoplight switch is sending power to it. Our Bronco also has a trailer brake controller installed. We set up the Takancha Prodigy P3. And so, even though we have two components, the trailer brake controller and our supplemental braking system, the switch is doing the job for both of them. So if you're trying to set yours up like this too, you don't need two switches. There's a way to do it where one switch can do both jobs. And I'll show you that here in a minute during the installation. So really what it boils down to, if you're trying to do a trailer brake controller and your vehicle don't have that factory plug that's activated, you're gonna need this. Or if you're setting up a flat tow and your braking system has an indicator light or monitor light, you're gonna need this. So that's really all there is to it. It is nice, it's custom fit. There's a custom bracket designed for the Bronco, so it makes installation a little bit easier. You're still kind of buried underneath the dash trying to get to it and actually get this installed. So it is kind of a pain crawling under there, but don't take too long. You do it one time and you're good to go. I also recommend picking up an additional fuse holder, just the way that I like to set it up. I've had really good luck doing that, so you can always grab that here at eTrailer. And with that said, why don't we go ahead and we'll get to it. We'll pull into the garage and get started on it now. To begin our installation for our stoplight switch, we're going to be working under the dash, the driver's side of our Bronco. And what I like to do first is as much prep as possible. That way we can keep from having to go under the dash for as much time. So what I did, I took one of the wires, used a butt connector, and hooked up a red wire here. They give you a red and a green wire. This one eventually I'll probably extend longer and run it to the battery under the hood. And this one we can just take the other wire that they give you, it's this green one, and hook it up. And so the way that you're going to make electrical connections, it'll be the same. You just strip the end back, twist the wire, place it into the butt connector, and crimp it down. We'll grab our custom bracket now and get this sorted. And so this end, the switch is going to go through it. So you can remove that top nut, put that through, run this down by hand. I usually start somewhere in the middle because this is adjustable. And when you find where you need to put it, you can use a 14 millimeter, hold this nut down, 17 for this one. But the way this works is this is a normally open switch, right? So say if my finger is a brake pedal arm, you want to set the switch up to where that plunger is pretty much completely pushed inside of the switch housing there, right? And you want it to start to extend out, you know, as soon as that brake pedal arm would start to get pushed down, okay? So about right there is how you want it when the brake pedal's just sitting there, you're not pushing it, it's not getting pulled down, anything like that. And then as soon as it starts to get pulled or pushed down, that switch comes out, closes, and allows power to go through. So I just wanted to explain that while we can actually see what's going on, as opposed to under the dash where it's really tough to kind of get a feel for things. You can take the dash now and kind of grab it like this on each side, and that just releases some snaps. And we'll disconnect all this stuff too, just to get it out of her way. All these little connectors, you can just push on the tab to get them free. Probably a good idea too not to try to turn your car on with all that stuff disconnected. And then it looks like there's a couple of little plastic push pins here. Just take a Phillips head screwdriver, barely put pressure to it, and pull that out over here. And I think this is all that's holding this panel in. We'll just pop that off and get it out of her way. There's this metal panel here too we can remove. So there's two 8 millimeter head bolts. Pop them out, and this will just lift off and we can get it out of her way. I want to mention too, first time doing one of these switches on the Bronco, I plugged this stuff back in, even though I didn't touch anything and hit the ignition or push the pedals or nothing. It started kind of yelling at me saying parking brake, function limited, something along those lines. So I plugged this back in, turned the key on, went away, all good there. So I'm just gonna leave it plugged in for now. So just something that I thought was worth sharing if that happens to you. I was able to get the stoplight switch mounted up and everything, and what you mount it to, there's a factory bracket that runs down in the dash, and there's two holes already there in the bracket. So you just line up the switch bracket with it, take the included hardware, make sure that the switch is actually hitting the brake pedal arm like we talked about earlier, and tighten everything down and adjust it. You might have to kind of bend the bracket a little bit left or right to get everything to line up. That's pretty normal. But yeah, now that this is set and everything, finished getting it all wired up. I got the wires hooked up here, and the red one, like we talked about, I hooked that up to the red one that's going into the engine compartment to get hooked up to power. The green one, I have that hooked up to the red wire from our coach link monitor. And what I did too, I doubled up a second green wire on one side and put a butt connector on it. And that's because we will be doing a trailer brake controller later on, and those require us to have a brake signal. So kind of double down there, and can use this switch for both things. Moving under the hood, that red wire coming off of our switch, like I said, it runs to battery power. I have this hooked up to a fuse holder that you will need to get separately. The stoplight switch does come with a fuse tap, but honestly, it's not very compatible with this particular vehicle. The type of fuse and even just the fuse boxes are pretty much all used up, and nothing really good to go off of. So, you know, you can always grab this one here, just connected it to the wire, connected it to the power post on our battery, and then we can put the fuse in it. With the switch all set up and adjusted and everything, I went ahead, put our panels back together the opposite way that we removed them. And with all that wrapped up, that'll do it for our look at and our installation of the Roadmaster custom fit stoplight switch kit on our 2024 Ford Bronco.